Jim and John at Topeka, they do a heck of a show. Live from New York.
What's wrong with you?
Because you made fun of my friend. Called him highfalutin.
Sorry, I didn't buy the leather-bound editions.
First things first, day 2, back from vacation.
Day 2.
Today, quick tale of 2 cities not in the book. I know you're so literary. Russ's career in Seattle, great. 2 Super Bowls, won one. With the Broncos, not so much. Although he played okay last year. Nick disagrees. Yeah. Who does this look worse for, the whole situation, macro, Denver or Russ?
I'll give a direct answer, but before I do, we shouldn't have to start so negative.
Oh.
Can we talk about who it looks great for?
Sure.
Your old buddy Nick Wright. Classic 1. Not even a 2. Just an all-time classic 1.
It was a classic 1.
Immediately correct every step of the way. Almost like a classic 0. More correct. It might have been invented. I was more right than I thought I could have been. And so, it's on Russ. It was a 2-year classic 1. But and now to go negative, like we have to go in sports TV. Yeah. I wanted to go positive. Listen, it's bad for Denver, but because it happened almost simultaneous with a worse trade and worse contract with Deshaun Watson, I think it's kind of mitigated. And so because historically, I don't think people can say this is the worst trade. It's like, well, the Deshaun trade, they gave up more and paid him more, and they can't get rid of him. So because of that, I think it is clearly worse for Russ because, Brew, it is a fall without an off-field scandal or an injury. Unlike me, Dusty, Josh, all for like 20 minutes before the show, we're like, what is the comp for this? Cross sports, the best I could come up with was Kurt Warner maybe, and Kurt did come back at the end, but Kurt also, he had multiple injuries that he broke a hand, broke a wrist, broke a finger, and so it was like that felt like it was.
But his run, as great as it was, wasn't as long as Russ.
No, it wasn't as long. It was a higher peak, but shorter time. Josh brought up maybe Russell Westbrook in the time from league MVP to can't even play for the Lakers, but that just felt more about fit than it was the player. Yeah. So it is just. David Duval was what I came up with. Oh. And you have to go to golf 20 years ago. And so
can I throw one to you that I had written down?
Yeah.
I wrote down Carson Wentz-esque.
But Carson Wentz, here's the thing with
I know he's never was at the height.
No, but he also got his leg broken and ACL snapped. And maybe we can say it was going to go poorly, but he's going to win league MVP. Gets his leg broken and is never the same player. And so RG3, we've seen those things. And we've seen scandal. Russ wasn't old enough for us to say, oh, no, it was just age. And for it to be this bad, this quickly, and to where what it's going to cost him, because I don't know he's going to be a starter, Brew. And so my answer is going to be Russell Wilson.
You really got me thinking.
I know. We spent a lot of time thinking about it. It's hard to find.
Yeah, it's hard right away. But I'm glad you brought up Kurt Warner because I thought about that when Russ, when they released him and now he's, he released this statement. He has that. Kurt Warner was bad with the Giants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was like.
It was bad at the end with the Rams.
Right,
yes,
right.
Before
and
the
then
Giants.
He
resurrected
really
himself
in Arizona. Yeah. So I'm not saying he's going to lead a team to a Super Bowl like Kurt Warner did, but I think this is an opportunity. It doesn't have to be done for Russ. So that's why I think it's worse for the Broncos. It's bad for both of them, don't get me wrong. And that includes Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton came in as the golden boy, and of course he's got time to, maybe they'll be very good next year or in the future, so he can erase that. But right now, Sean Payton looked bad. Their defense went from solid, 14th in the league to 27th in the league. They gave up a 70-piece. He won 7 games after saying, I'd be shocked if we don't make the playoffs in the preseason. And all of his gaffes in the media and the missteps and things like that. So I think it looks bad for everybody, but I'm going to focus more on the Broncos because, remember, this also was new ownership. The Walton, of Walmart, Rob Walton and all that. their first thing, I mean, I don't think they hired Hackett, right? He was there before them.
Right, but they was giving him the deal.
But they came in, and I mean, before Russ gets off the plane, they give him this huge extension. So first of all, they gave up all of this, with the 3 players, the 5 picks, 2 of them first-round picks, and Seattle's made good on that. Devon Witherspoon was an all-pro, Pro Bowl cornerback, and they got an offensive lineman that starts for him in that. And then they made it worse by giving him this extension. And so this has to make you say, okay, how confident am I in our ownership? Yep. They went out and, paid Russ before they even saw him play for us at all, even in practice. And so I think there's that. And I think, Nick, like I said, Russ, wherever he goes, has a chance to – I don't think he'll get back to what he was, but to play well. And like you said, while he wasn't horrible last year, I think, Nick, I don't think he's an on-time quarterback. I think that's where the problems begin. I think he's more of a guy that's going to scramble around and make plays, and he couldn't do that in Denver, and he looked bad
so a couple things. One of the reasons he couldn't do that his first year in Denver because he came in out of shape, and he refused to run. And his second year in Denver, and I think Sean Payton agrees with me, and I'm not saying I want to make it very clear. I know some people at Fox have a real relationship with Sean Payton. I'm not one of them. I don't know him, so this is not coming from Sean at all. But I think he agrees with me given the sideline interactions and him benching Russ and all of that. Russ was playing a Russell Wilson selfish style of quarterback, where he was not making the best plays. Instead, he was protecting that touchdown-interception ratio, so folks would say things like this, well, last year he wasn't that bad. He only had 1 less touchdown than Patrick Mahomes. Look at the ratio. I watched every game he played. He was awful. He wasn't
awful?
He was a bottom 8 quarterback in football last year.
I wouldn't say. Now, look, I hear you. We've talked about this before, and the numbers, you're right, they're a bit deceiving. Because you look at the numbers, and you're like, top 5 or 6 in passer rating, top 10 in touchdowns. I give you that. But I wouldn't say all.
Okay, well,
it wasn't nearly as good as the
would?
numbers.
Sean Payton and the Broncos, who are giving him $85 million to leave with no other plan. With no contingency.
That's part of why they look worse.
Well, you can. That's fine. And I don't.
What is the plan?
No, and I understand your argument. And my point that just because the Browns made an even worse decision, that probably is bad
Which
logic.
Still could maybe.
And I guess maybe that could turn around. But I think Russ was so bad his first year in Denver that people are now overstating his second year in Denver. They were a team that, again, had Jared Stidham as a backup. Still, that's who they have as a backup. And they save no money next year by moving on from him. And they're like, no, we're going to take a $39 and then a $46 million dead cap at the next 2 seasons because we have to get you out of here.
All right. In a letter to Bronco Country posted on social media, Russ said, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And he was excited for what's next. So the question is this, what's next? Here's the Vegas odds for Russ's next spot. Steelers, Raiders, Falcons, Patriots, Vikings. Brew. Caveat here is since Denver is paying his full salary, he can play for the minimum, which is $1.21 million. Denver would pay the rest. So where do you see Russ?
Well, I had not seen the odds when I came up with my list, but Pittsburgh makes the most sense. And I know the reports are saying they're not interested in Russ, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. I don't know what the Steelers are doing. I used to be a huge Steelers fan as a kid, like crazy Steelers fan. As much as you're a Chiefs fan.
Being from Iowa?
From Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati?
Yeah, because my dad liked them because Joe Gilliam was a black quarterback that they had before Bradshaw. So my dad liked them. So I liked them because of my dad. But I love the Steelers. But if I were that big of a fan now, I would be ticked off. Like, what are they thinking? You're going to do this with Kenny Pickett, who has 13 touchdowns and like 24 starts in his career? Like, they want to be 9-8, 10-7 at best, and get walloped in the postseason every year. And it doesn't have to be Russ. Russ would not be my number one of those four guys I listed. But I'm just saying, if they're not going after the other three, go get Russell Wilson for freaking $1 million. Maybe at worst, he's your starter, and you can Pickett. I know Pickett's like 25, almost 26, but maybe Pickett can learn a little something by sitting on the bench. I don't know, but I'm just saying he's better than what you would admit. He's better than Pickett.
Well, for the record, I think Pittsburgh they might like Mason Rudolph more than Kenny Pickett. I mean,
but even again,
no. Listen, I wrote down Pittsburgh should do it. But I think these Vegas odds
are wrong. I think it's going to be the Raiders.
Oh, I don't. No.
If they can't move up and get a quarterback they want,
I don't think it'll be the Raiders.
What are they going to do at quarterback?
I think the Raiders have played Russell Wilson 4 times the last 2 years. They do not. Anyone that has watched him closely doesn't want him. So what's interesting about these odds is you have Minnesota and Atlanta on there. One of those is going to be eliminated because Kirk Cousins is going to be playing for one of them. You know what I mean? So
but
I know they're both on there.
If they lose Cousins,
guys,
why not for $1 million?
For $1 million maybe, but then anyone that brings him in, he is competing for a job.
So can I dig into that?
Yeah.
I know I said $1 million. He can play for $1 million. But there's a theory out there, and Florio did a lot of the digging on this, that he can play for as low as $1 million, but and this is Florio's theory, that then the franchise is not financially invested in him. So it's like, $1 million, now, you know what, we said start you, but we're going to sit you. Versus if you spend $20 million paying.
$20 million?
I'm just saying, if you pay $20 million for a guy who's a starting quarterback is not a lot of money. But then you have to show some commitment to your promise to have him start. Where it's $1 million, it's like, it's $1 million.
Yeah, nobody is going to give him a commitment.
Look, Russ has, and I've said this over the past 2 years, he should be humbled. He should be humbled. He shouldn't be thinking about any office. I'm sure he's not thinking about something like that. But he should go somewhere for $1 million. A lot of people have tracked his start to his decline to when he started getting the huge money. Now, whether you believe in that or not, but I'm just saying, right now, he should have the attitude he had as a rookie going to Seattle when nobody thought he was going to start, and he had to prove himself. He's got to do it now.
Okay, I don't think this is a matter of Russell Wilson getting back to his roots. He's not good anymore.
So you're saying basically, politely, that he's washed.
I'm actually not trying to be that polite. For 2 years, I've been trying to tell everyone. And Nat Hackett couldn't make it through his season. Nat Hackett, before the end of his first game as a head coach, after an offseason, training camp, preseason, and 3.8 NFL quarters, he was like, better chance to win this football game. This guy kicked the longest field goal of his life, or Russell Wilson pick up 6 yards. He's like, I've seen enough. Go with the kicker. Doesn't make it through the year. Sean Payton could have any job he wanted. And everyone's like, Denver gave him a bunch of money. Guess what? Sean Payton was going to make a boatload of money anywhere. Goes there, in part, because he's like, I can fix that. I'm so confident I'm going to fix that. I'll tell USA Today the other coach was a bumbling fool because he couldn't fix it. Sean Payton, 3 months into the season, screaming at him on the sideline, and now get out of here. And then they bench him. Pete Carroll. Guys, I'm here to tell you that he can't play at a starting NFL level anymore.
No, Nick, hold on, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick.
What?
And I agree with you because I watched those games too.
Yes, I know.
And I was like, he doesn't look good. They struggled mightily in the red zone. I'm shocked he had 26 touchdowns because when you watch them, it didn't look like they had 26 touchdowns. But my point is, he did have 26 touchdowns. And I think he had 3 rushing, so 29 or whatever. 8 interceptions. 98 passer rating. I know it was only 205 yards a game, but I'm just saying, that's starter quality.
Okay.
Low starter.
Okay, so give us the team.
Well, it should be Pittsburgh. I think it'll be the Raiders if it's not Pittsburgh.
You think Antonio Pierce is like, I'm here.
What else?
Raiders
is he
are
going to
back?
go with Aiden O'Connell?
No, they might draft a guy.
Somebody.
They're going to draft a guy.
If they can move up and draft somebody, fine. I think New England will draft somebody. I think Washington will draft somebody. Minnesota, if they lose Cousins, I think that could be the place too.
So whoever
record, loses out on these other guys.
I think the place that makes the most sense to bring him in and see could be New England. because I think New England's the most likely team to take advantage of the desperate Giants. So the Giants are at 6, New England's at 3. New England says, you're a franchise that hasn't done anything right in a decade. I would love to have a future pick from you. So you trade a 6 for 3, and then the Patriots take, whether it's Joe Alt or Neighbors or, you know what I mean, a blue chip guy that's a non-quarterback, and bring in Russ to compete with Mac Jones. Mac, we're not giving up on you, but we're bringing in competition. Let that play out.
I think it's a fresh start in New England to the point where it might hurt my guy Mac Jones. I don't think that sounds very similar to bringing Cam Newton.
Yeah,
it's just exactly similar. It's like, you know what? This guy used to be great, might not still have it, but I'm sure with a great defense, a little bit of running, we can make it work. And it feels like a Band-Aid for the franchise that needs to really have a full-on
real
rebuild.
quick, and I know I'm glad you just said that. People were totally willing, correctly, to say, Cam Newton, wash. I don't know why people are hesitant to say that about Russell Wilson.
I think it's because we saw Cam he took so many hits that we knew it was because his body had betrayed him.
You know, and there's also that one, and Dusty, we used to break out the stat, like after that one hit, who was it?
We know. I think it was T.J. Watt.
Yeah, there was like a line in the sand where like Cam's accuracy and sort of deep field passing. I listened to Russ and did a podcast with Brandon yesterday, and he talked more about, and again, it wasn't a long conversation about the specific injuries, but he talked about his knee injury and lat injury more than I expected him to. He's like, he talked about his finger injury. I was like, you know what? The narrative around Russ was never like, hey, he was injured. So I wonder if, since no one really has a solution of why he has fallen off the cliff, maybe this lat injury is a little affecting him more than maybe the media is
maybe. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that. I know that the line of, instead of the line being T.J. Watt hitting Cam Newton, the line was Russell Wilson deciding, I'm better than what we have in Seattle, and I'm going to prove it to the world. And Pete Carroll saying, okay, go ahead. And since then, it has not worked out that way.
All right, so Sean Payton looking for his next quarterback. Here's who Vegas has the odds. Stidham.
Oh, God.
Jarrett the Javelin.
Inject this list into my veins as a Chiefs fan.
J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, yeah. Trade up for it.
Bruce Wolverines. Bo Nix.
Oh, please. Hope he's there.
Now, Jameis, who had some success with Sean Payton. Penix. And then Gardner, who wins games. But I don't think any of these guys are necessarily on Mahomes' level. Brew to you.
All right, here's what they should do. Draft J.J. McCarthy.
Please draft J.J. McCarthy.
Draft J.J.
He might not be there. You probably got to trade up, guys.
You can get him. And go sign Jameis Winston, because you mocked.
No.
But a few years ago, if you remember, Jameis Winston was a dark horse MVP candidate.
You want to know what a good teammate I am, Brew? Give him Jameis Winston with Sean Payton.
Called up some video.
No. I built this because I knew this was going to be your pick. So again, ignore the yards. Ignore the yards, America. But
14 to 3 touchdown interception, and that was coming off the year where he threw 30 picks.
Yep.
And the passer rating his career high. Look, it's a stopgap, but I'm saying draft JJ, sign Jameis. If Sean likes Jameis, and he started him, so he must be okay with him. So let Jameis start and let JJ sit for a year, and maybe he could become your QB of the future.
All right. This is the good stuff, man. This is just like Brew grew up. It's told the audience, and Brew's. I always believe Brew because he's probably the most honest person I've ever met. But also, I could feel the Steelers fandom coming out because Brew dropped the rare frickin', which we know is an F-bomb, and so he only did that out of the frustration out of his fandom. I grew up, as you guys know, a Chiefs fan, and I grew up watching the Broncos kick my team's ass all throughout the 90s. And now a few weeks ago, I got to watch John Elway hand us the Super Bowl trophy. And now we're doing a full screen of who's going to be the Broncos' next quarterback. And if they do overdraft one of these mediocre quarterbacks who's going to be the 4th or 5th quarterback drafted, guess what? They're not going to be like, the cheat code, cheap quarterback on a rookie scale, not when you have the number 8 cap hit next year and the year after in dead money from Russ. This type of mistake is a 5-year mistake. The 2 years you already wasted, and the next 3 getting out from under it. And the problem is, once you're 3 years from now through with it, you know who's supposed to be the best players on your team? Those first-round picks that you didn't get to make who would be hitting their prime. So I don't think this is short-term recoverable. I don't think it matters who the Broncos' next quarterback is because he's not going to be very good next year. None of those guys that would be a star, but you're going to be having a quarterback star's cap hit, and you're down players. And so, yeah, I mean, please listen. You probably got to trade up to get J.J. McCarthy. Man, Harbaugh says he's great, so maybe mortgage another first rounder. But Jameis is going to be the guy.
You think so?
I bet Jameis is on the Broncos. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean,
they were 5-2, 14-3.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.